Hi everyone, this is Jonas again. Welcome to the second AjiL tutorial video. In the first video, you saw how we could import the projects into the Eclipse workspace and basically install the AjiL tool. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use the graphical editor. So therefore, we start where we left in the last video and simply start the editor graphical project with the right click and run as Eclipse application. The startup takes a couple of seconds. Let's see. So now you should see an empty new Eclipse instance which started up with our plugins we developed here. So basically this editor graphical is an Eclipse plugin and we need to create a new project. We want to create a graphical model of our microservice architecture. Therefore, we are going to use a modeling project. Let's name it my first model project, whatever. What this modeling project does is basically it generates some files, this representations AERD file. We need it later, so now we need to create the actual models. Therefore, we go to New and Other. Right now, we don't have a nice wizard which does all that automatically, but we're working on it. But right now, we need to do all this cryptic stuff. Let's see. We can simply search for AjiL to see the possible model files. As I mentioned before, we splitted the meta model in the AjiML model and the AjiMLT. The T stands for technical, which basically means we are going to create a model with technical details, like we are using a REST controller or we are using message-based communication. So we are using this MLT model. We have to name it here, my AjiL model, and we need to select the root object. And the root object is always the system object. Finish. And right now you've created your first AjiL model. As you can see here, we just have the standardized, the standard EMF tree editor here. So you could basically right-click New Child and create children of the system, like a functional service or a discovery service, but we want to use the graphical editor we provided you. So therefore we need to create representations, create representation. And now we have two diagram types. For the whole system, we want to create an overview diagram. There you go, system T, finish. We can name it, let's just say, it's basically the example overview diagram. Okay. And we should see a graphical representation of our system. So right now, the whole system is empty, therefore we don't see anything. But on the right side, you see the possible tools to manipulate the diagram. So we could add a functional service. Our services are always depicted as cubes with different colors. Functional services have a blue surface here. And on the bottom side, you see in the properties view all the properties you can set for this service, like the port, the name. Is it load balance? Is it is the circuit breaker activated? And so on. And in the MLT model, which we created, we also have attributes like which generator should we use later, or which database should we use when we want to generate, or is it containerized? If we had created a simple ML model, not the technical view, these attributes would be hidden. So let's create some a simple system. Discovery, we can add a security service. We can add more functional services like this. The AjiL model comes with some OCL constraints. So these, I can validate the model, validate diagram, right click, validate diagram, and see a couple constraints are violated, like we need a domain, we need an interface. The service number is not, the service name is not unique, the service ports are not unique. So let's see if we can do something about that. So I'm changing the port numbers, 8888. Let's make it a 7. And here we're going for 90. Okay. So on the last check, the unique service port constraint was violated. If I do the check again, we see there are only 3 constraints left which are violated. So we could do everything right now, like change the names of the services and so on. But let's just go ahead. Right now, these services have no associations. They are not related to each other. So we should add some edges, like this functional service MyService1 is discovered by this discovery service. And this MyService4 is also discovered by this discovery service. And MyService4 is secured by MyService3 security service. That's basically the overview diagram. If we do another validate diagram, the constraints for the discovery service and for the security service are all green lighted. Here we have some minor problems, like we are still missing a domain, so the functional service is empty, and an empty functional service doesn't make any sense, to be honest. Let's do something about that. So we can basically create other representations. In the first version, we had all details in this overview diagram, so all entities which are encapsulated in the functional service, all interfaces and so on. And the diagram simply got too big. It simply blew up when we had more than 3 or 4 functional services. Therefore, we added a separate representation for functional services. So we are selecting the functional service 1 here. Right-click, new representation, and are creating the MyService1 diagram. This diagram is dedicated only to this service. It's empty right now. We have now different tools on the right side, and we can create a data model. So as you may notice, the icons are not that nice. We are working on that. Let's add some entities to the data model, like student or university or whatever. By default, this is organized as a tree, routing from the my domain model. Let's name it university. So we now have two simple entities. We can, as you see, use this toolbar to add attributes, but we can also use on the right side this this menu. We can add some new string attributes to the student. Let's say that's the name, and the university has, of course, a name also, like that. Additionally, like UML, we can do some simple relations, like a university has students. By default, it is has one relation, but we can change to has many. We don't can actually do like 1 to 30 or 1 to 2, something like that. We only have the possibilities between 1 and many for the multiplicity, because it's easier to actually generate a concrete in the concrete implementation. So that's a very simple domain model. What we need now is an interface so that other services can access our entities. So let's create an interface. My interface. Oh, we can actually create two interfaces. Let's name it the student interface and the university interface. As I already mentioned, you can choose the communication mechanism like RESTful HTTP or publish subscribe. And basically right now, what's left to do is to add, we call it abilities. So this university interface has currently does nothing, but we can add CRUD operations or a custom operation which manipulates certain entities. So let's say we want to express that the interface can create students. So we are adding an interface ability to the student interface, like that. Simply click. And we need to draw a subject edge so that this ability knows it's related to the student. Like that. Notice that we implemented a couple of constraints. So you can't draw a subject edge from entity to another entity. It's only possible to draw it from an ability to an entity. And we did that for nearly all edges and all possible things. So we wanted to minimize the possible errors you could do. So let's add maybe let's add a read option to the university. Actually, the example doesn't make any sense because most of the time you want to read and create on the same time and delete. So you want all the CRUD options, but theoretically you can differ and only provide like create and delete and not the ability to read actually the entities. So draw another subject edge. We could draw it to students. So from the university interface, we had an ability that could read students, but from the naming here it doesn't make any sense. So we are drawing it to the university. Like that. You can freely manipulate all the edges. Let's save the diagram. And now switch back to the overview diagram. Now you notice that these two circles appeared here. This is basically the representation of the interfaces. Drawing it a little bit smaller, here's the university interface, and here is the student interface. They are always bordered to the service here. And if we do another validate diagram check, you see this red cross disappeared because now we have a domain model in MyService1 and we have a service interface. So what basically now can do is we can add a depends on edge so that MyService4 consumes the university interface like this. And well, we could do it again for the student interface like that. Notice that while we drew these edges in MyService4, this list appeared here. So you could use the edge tools on the right, but you could also simply use these default tools from Eclipse Sirius and just simply click on the three buttons, on the three circles, and select the interface here. Well, so basically that's it. What you can do with the graphical editor. So you notice here is the representation of MyService1. We could do that for each functional service. So here we could create a MyService4 diagram. And create an interface, create a data model, and so on. But yeah, that's basically it what the graphical editor can do. I hope everything was understandable. If you have any questions, feel free. In the next video, I'm going to show you how you can load this diagram we created, the My AjiL model diagram. So basically I can open it with any text editor. It's a simple XML file with all the things we created. How we can actually load that into our generator and generate actual source code from it. See you again. Thanks for listening.